Say hello to the best deck in Star Wars Unlimited. Hello and welcome to the table, and today I am back with big boy control, soft control realistically, Admiral Piett Blue. I love Piett. He is my personal favorite deck in all Star Wars, and this deck, this latest version of Piett that I have been playing around with, is absolutely amazing. I love this deck. It is so good. In my last Piett video, people were saying you gotta have Prepare for Takeoff in the deck, and I agreed. I think it's a good card. I just didn't know where to slot it in, and I figured it out. Because Rivals Fall, I'm learning more and more that I really don't like that card, because it can allow you to lose the game very quickly, because it takes up a whole turn just to get rid of one unit, and it's just not good enough. But this is the latest version of Piett Blue that I have been playing with, and man, it is doing well. So let's get into things. Starting off, if you don't already know, Admiral Piett is a command villainy leader from the latest set that says as an action you can play a capital ship from your hand and it costs one less to play. Pretty solid. I mean, resource reduction, resource cheating, pretty good. I mean, in every trading card game ever, decks that do that, things that mess with resources, generally pretty good. We've already seen that in Star Wars. Look at Boba Fett. Probably the best leader in the game from the very first set. Where is it? It's gone. So, yeah, here we are. But Admiral Piett here, in addition, as an epic action, once you have fire more resources, can flip into a 2/7 that says, hey, capital ships you play, not just once per turn, but every capital ship you play costs 2 less to play. That is dumb. That is very dumb. Because you can play something like an Avenger on turn 4, you can play something like a Resupply Carrier on turn 3, you can play something like Annihilator, Executor on a turn 5. It's just dumb. It is just so dumb. But in addition, while this deck can be slow because it has really big things, it doesn't really build a good board state until later on in the more mid portions of the game. We got Colossus to give ourselves a little bit of a buffer, because Colossus is a 35 health base, which is a lot, especially when you're playing against something especially when you're playing against something like a Sabine, playing, I don't know, an ECL, which has 25 health, or something like a Quinlan Voss that has 25 health, or something like a Kylo Ren that has 25 health. Most of the aggressive decks in this game have 25 health, and then when they stare at a 35 health base, it's like, oh, that's so annoying, I gotta get through so much damage. And this deck, it makes it pretty hard for your opponent to kill you early on, giving you the time that you need to get to your big stuff. Or, you know, if you don't have the time to get to your big stuff, and your opponent's about to kill you, you can just drop something like a Superlaser Blast on their face. Which is fine. But anyways, let's talk about the deck. Let's go all the way up from the bottom to the top. Starting off with Admiral Piett as a 2-of in this deck. It's a 2-resource, 1/4 that says each friendly non-leader unit that costs 6 or more gains ambush. This card, in my opinion, it's a solid 2-of. It gives you more options early on in the game to play, to just give you a little bit of extra value later on. And this card can basically turn your sometimes do nothing space units that you play, your capital ships that you play, like Resupply Carrier. Sure, they ramp you, but it's just the body. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't have ambush like Arquitens Assault Cruiser. It doesn't make your opponent sack a thing like Avenger. It doesn't shrink something like Malevolence. Like, Resupply Carrier might not do much that often. Well, with Admiral Piett, it can, because it's now all of a sudden a 4/5 that ramps you and ambushes into one of your opposing enemy space units, which is good for you. Plus, it can make something like an Avenger, a Devastator, an Annihilator, an Executor, a Malevolence that much scarier, that much better. Or Gladiator, Star Destroyer too. But then there is Dr. Pershing, which is a 2-resource 0/5 that has an action of tapping himself, dealing a damage to a unit, and then drawing a card. This card doesn't seem that great. I'm going to go a little bit off curve here, but it's amazing in combination with Superlaser Technician, because this card, it's a 3-resource 2/1. Oh, 1 health, interesting. And then when it's defeated, you can put it into play as a resource, and you can ready it. So basically, you play Pershing on turn 1, and then turn 2, you Superlaser Technician, maybe use a Pershing, deal a damage to the Superlaser Technician, go up a card, that can be pretty good for you. Especially when Colossus reads, draw 1 less card in your starting hand. So, that can be pretty solid for you, not gonna lie. And in addition, something that was brought up several times in the last video was, well, prepare for takeoff is a great way to kind of negate the downsides of Colossus, and I agree with that, and now, here it is, in this version. Because Prepare for Takeoff is a 2-resource event that says search the top 8 cards of your deck for 2 vehicle units, reveal them, put them into your hand, and then put the rest on the bottom of your deck in a random order. Something that I have run into a couple of times with Piet that has just allowed me to lose the game is I keep the opponent's board state in check, and then it gets to about the time where I can drop something like an Avenger, a Devastator, some big, massive monster to end the game, and I don't have anything, because the rest of my hand has been drained by using removal spells and interaction in ways to ramp to my big boys, and then I don't have any. So Prepare for Takeoff can allow you to get 2, because you get to search the top 8 of your deck for 2 different big boys. And that's a good chunk of your deck. That's almost a 1/5 of your deck. And once you've drawn your starting hand, that's over a 1/5 of your deck. And the later you go into the game, the more likely Prepare for Takeoff is to hit one of your massive monsters, which is great for you. Then there's Price on Your Head, a 2-resource upgrade. It's something that you're going to always want to put on your opponent's stuff, just so you know. If you haven't played Piet before, you haven't seen Piet before, which I'd be surprised about, but who knows. But anyways, this card reads, the attached unit gets a bounty put on their head that says you get to put the top card of your deck into play as a resource. So you spend 2, slap this onto one of your opponent's units, and then let's just say you kill that unit somehow. I don't know how. There's only a couple of ways in the deck to do that. And then you get to ramp a little, making it a little easier to get to your assault cruisers, to your Avengers, to your big massive beaters, your beat sticks that end the game. You want ramp, and you want ways to make it easier for you to get to your big boys, and this is one of the better cards in the deck to do that, because you can play it on the very first turn of the game, and the very next turn play something like a Merciless Contest, a 3-resource event that says each player chooses a non-leader unit they control, and they defeat those units, which is great for you, because you play a price on your head, your opponent plays a unit that you put a price your head on, and then you have Merciless Contest it, and then it's gone. And then you get to ramp, and that's great for you. In addition, if you don't draw a Merciless Contest, you can play something like a Power of the Dark Side that says each opponent chooses a unit they control and then defeats that unit. So sometimes, if you have a Pershing out, and then the next turn you play like a Price on Your Head or something like you're maybe a little off curve, in a Power of the Dark Side, then you don't have to lose your Dr. Pershing, and your opponent loses their unit, and then you get to take all the advantage of the Price on Your Head, which is great for you. Also, a really good 3-drop in this deck is Resupply. A 3-resource event that says, just put it into play as a resource. You just get to ramp with it. You take it, you put it in as a resource, and you're done and done. Resupply is just a really solid card. This is probably one of the few, if not the only deck where I think Resupply is actually, you really want it as a 3-of in the deck, because it just, sure, it's a do-nothing on the second turn of the game, and it's worse the later you go into the game. But Resupply, it can just allow you to really quickly get into the stuff that allows you to completely take over the game or flip the game in your favor. But in addition, another 3-resource way to interact, because you need a lot of those in this deck if you want to have a chance. I got Perilous Position. One of the best ways to interact with the opponents on the second turn of the game, in my opinion, because it's a 3-resource upgrade that gives a -2/-2 debuff to the thing that you put it on. It does not have to just be a non-vehicle unit, by the way. And when you play the Perilous Position, you exhaust the attached unit. So, 1, it exhausts the thing for a turn, which is great for you. All the damage that thing would deal, Doesn't happen for a turn. In addition, every single turn after that it would go to deal damage, it's going to deal 2 less damage, and it's also going to have 2 less health, which might make it easier to remove with something like, I don't know, a Takedown. 4 resource event that says defeat a unit with 5 or less remaining HP. So sure, this card's way better in the early game, Perilous Position, but if you draw it later on in the game, it can be pretty good in combination with the Takedown. Especially considering that Perilous Position could be the thing that if your opponent's going big, maybe similarly to you, you can shrink the thing that's about to deal lethal damage to you, and in the very next turn, or maybe even then in that same turn, take it down for good. But if you don't have that little combination for later on in the game, there's always a 1-off Fell the Dragon, a 4 resource event that says defeat a non-linear unit with 5 or more power. It can't be leaders, which is unfortunate. That is something that I really like about Takedown, because it can take down the Sabines of the world and the, Kylo Rens of the world, but Fell the Dragon can't. But what it can do is, for 4 resources, take down something like an Avenger, which is really good for you. Because, yeah, when you're playing against another big deck, you do not want your opponent's big stuff to stick, and this can be a really good just one-shot, boom, kill it, and be done. Just done and done. In addition, No Glory Only Results can be a really good card to allow you to do a similar thing. It's a 5-resource event that says take control of a non-leader unit, then you defeat that unit. It's a really good way to just kill something, anything you want, permitting that it's not a leader. But in addition, you get to take control of it, meaning that if it has some cool when defeated, you get to take advantage of that. And if it's something like a K2SO, which I cannot tell you how many times I've lost the game because of K2SOs when defeated, it's no longer dealing damage to you. You instead get to strip the opponent of more resources from their hand. Maybe the last card in their hand that might have been a Poe Dameron, a Wrecker, something that was going to kill you before you could beat them, or get the tempo to allow you to beat them, all thanks to No Glory Only Results as a one-shot silver bullet in your deck. Or a one-off silver bullet in your deck, whatever I'm trying to say. But now we are finally getting to the big stuff. But 2 more cards I do want to talk about a little bit out of curve. Turbolaser Salvo and Superlaser Blast. These are effectively the board wipes of the deck, because if you can't get to your big boys, or if you don't really have the time to play one of your big boys because your opponent's board is too wide, you gotta kill them. You're playing against a swarm deck like maybe Darth Vader, or Kylo Ren, or Sabine, or Quinlan Voss, one of the many decks that go super wide, you need a board wipe. Turbolaser Salvo and Superlaser Blast especially can be really good ways to allow you to just, boom, be done, and just wipe the whole board. Turbolaser Salvo not as good, because you need to choose an arena and have a friendly space unit control that's already out on the board, deal damage equal to its power to each enemy unit in that arena. So it can't wipe the whole board, but it can be a good way to get rid of most of, if not everything, in one single arena, which can do a lot of work. Turbolaser Salvo, if you really need something to like just wipe the whole board, and you don't really have a space unit like to get advantage of, like the Turbolaser Salvo needs, sure, it can be unfortunate. But the Turbolaser Salvo is still a really, really good card. It's a really good ace in the hole if you need it. Otherwise, you got Superlaser Blast, an 8-resource event that just defeats all units. Sure, it's not asymmetrical like Turbolaser Salvo is, but it's going into both arenas, and you don't already need to have a space unit set up. Because this card just says, no, let's reset for a minute. And if you're playing against a Sabine deck, or a Kylo deck, or a Quinlan deck, most likely when you play this, there's almost going to be no cards left in your hand, or there isn't going to be any cards left in your hand, and you play this, and the game's just over for them. Because then you get to stick down your big boys, and you get to win the game from there. But then, finally, getting to the big boys, let's talk about them. The first one being Gladiator Star Destroyer. A 6-resource, 5/6 space unit, capital ship, that when played, gives a unit, including itself if you want to, Sentinel for the phase. It can just be a kind of good wall, because you can play it by itself and then boom, slap Sentinel on it to the turn, and then all of the opposing space units have to go into it for that turn. I mean, obviously, if the opponent kills it, then they can go into your base again, but still, Gladiator can start Star Destroyer can be a really good wall, and it's a good 2-of. I don't think it should be much more than a 2-of, but it is really good when you need it. Plus, it's a 5/6, and if you ambush it in with Admiral Piet, I mean, that's not too bad either. But then there's Resupply Carrier. I've already talked about this one a little bit. It's a 6-resource, 4/5 space unit that when played, you get to put the top card of your deck into play as a resource. It's basically a better resupply because you are fine playing this in the more mid to late portions of the game, unlike a resupply, because this is a body, and it's something that could be taken advantage of if you have a Piet out, an Admiral Piet out, the unit, not the leader, out. But Resupply Carrier is just a really good card that can allow you to ramp into your big stuff while getting something to stick on the board to allow you to maybe play something like a Turbolaser Salvo to wipe some of your opposing enemy units out. So that can be really good for you. But one of the better space units in this deck where the things really start to get going, the ball really starts to get rolling, is when you play an Arquitens Assault Cruiser. An 8-resource space unit, 7/8. It is a beautiful, beautiful card because it has ambush. You don't need an Admiral Piet in order to immediately take advantage of this. I'm sure there are plenty of legendaries in this deck that you can immediately take advantage of, but this is where it really starts to get good because your stuff immediately does something that's really effective because Sentinel is not that great most of the time. Like, the situations kind of need to be perfect for the Gladiator Star Destroyer. For this, 8-resource, 7/8, boom, ambush, kill something in the space arena immediately. And when a unit attacks and defeats, when this unit attacks and defeats a non-leader unit, you put the defeated unit into play as a resource under your control. So you can ramp and kill something and stick down a massive threat all in one card. And you could potentially repeatedly ramp by killing your opponent's stuff with this Assault Cruiser. I absolutely love this card. This is, in my opinion, the best space unit that you're going to play early on in this deck. I mean, normally you're going to be able to get into Avenger the same time at the same-ish point that you would be able to get into the Assault Cruiser, but if you can't get into the Avenger, Assault Cruiser is the card that you want to play. This card is really good because it has ambush, it does stuff immediately, it can be really good. And sometimes, depending on the matchup that you're playing, this Assault Cruiser could get rid of a threat better than an Avenger, because Avenger makes the opponent sack a thing and choose something that they want to sack. If they have some measly 1/1 token lying around, or just a little body that they don't give a crap about, the Assault Cruiser can ambush right into the big thing and not just get rid of a measly little guy. But Avenger is still an absolutely amazing card, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love Avenger, because it is a 9-resource 8/8 that, when played and on attack, says an opponent chooses a unit they control, a non-leader unit they control, and then they defeat that unit. This card can do so much work in the right matchups, and if you are keeping your opponent's board state in check, which this deck can be really good at, depending on the matchup, it might not always be, but if you can keep the opponent's board state in check, Avenger, anytime you play or attack with it, just gets rid of the opponent's most important thing, which can be really solid. Plus, it's an 8/8 body, and that's nothing to scoff at either. Plus, in combination with an Admiral Piet, the card is absolutely cracked, because you play it, you make the opponent sack a thing. You ambush with the Piet, you attack into something, and then you, on attack, Avenger, make them sack another thing, which is so stupid to me, and I absolutely love it. And if you're attacking into something, and the opponent just chooses to sack that thing, that can sometimes be good for you too, because then the Avenger doesn't get dealt any damage, it can do stuff and control the board state that much longer. So that's pretty good for you. But then there is Malevolence as a 1-of in this deck. It is a 9-resource 7/7. It has Exploit 4. It has Restore 2. So if you have some stuff lying around that you don't really give a crap about, like Admiral Piet's, when they're not really doing much for you, Dr. Pershing's not really doing too much for you because it's got 1 health left or whatever. Superlaser Technicians, obviously you'd be wanting to exploit to this. You could play this earlier, but even at 9 resources, this 7/7 Restore 2 can do some solid work, because Restore 2, that's nothing to scoff at. And when you play it, it does immediately do something because you get to give an enemy space unit -4 power for the phase, and it can't attack for this phase. That is really big sometimes, because if you're playing against something like, I don't know, an Anakin. I have played against Anakin decks before that all of a sudden their unit is up to their Anakin is up to 10 power. And they're about to crack in on me and I'm about to just lose half of my life or something like that. And Malevolence shrinks that enemy unit down because it can be a enemy unit, not a non-leader enemy unit. And then all of a sudden, Anakin doesn't do anything for a turn, and you can start restoring with this 7/7 and cracking down on the opponent and starting to race them. And I don't know, it can be really good as a one-off. It's not great compared to something like an Avenger or the next couple of cards I'm going to talk about, but it can still do some solid work. And it's honestly a surprisingly good rare in this deck. It's not Assault Cruiser rare level good, but it's still solid. But then there is Devastator. This guy, love it. It is a 3-of like Avenger, like the Assault Cruiser. This card's awesome. It's a 10 resource 10/10 with Sentinel and Overwhelm, and a when played that says you get to deal damage. You may deal damage to a unit equal to the number of resources you control. This is the ramp deck, so you're going to get to deal a lot of damage to a unit when you play this guy. And in addition, it's to a unit. So something like an Anakin that I was talking about earlier, when you're playing against an Anakin deck, a deck that's just wanting to kind of because there are decks beyond Anakin that do this, where they just play a ton of Sentinel units in the ground arena, stick down their leader, buff it to the freaking moon, make it impossible to kill. Devastator can just come around and say, and let's kill it. Because I got a lot of resources, and that thing only has this much health left, and now it's gone. Also, I have a 10/10 Sentinel Overwhelm now in space, so have fun dealing with that. So yeah, absolutely love Devastator. This card is so sick. But then there are 2 more space units, 2 more 1-of space units in this deck, and they can be really, really solid. The first one being Annihilator, an absolutely insane card in a control mirror match. I mean, I get that this deck isn't a full control deck. I don't consider this deck to be a full control deck. It's more of a soft control deck, more mid-rangey deck. But Annihilator can be really good against another control deck, or just a control deck, because it's an 11 resource 12/12, which is a giant body. And it has a when played and when defeated that says you may defeat a enemy unit, including a leader unit, if you so choose to. But you'd rather it not be a leader unit, because if you do kill an enemy unit, you get to search its controller's deck and hand for each card with that unit's name and discard them. So your opponent, you're playing against something like a Sabine deck, let's say, because I can't think of a good control deck off the top of my head unless you're playing against another Piet deck. You know what? Let's think of Piet. Let's say that you play Annihilator, and then you get to defeat an Avenger. You get to search their hand and their deck for every freaking Avenger they got, and now they're gone. Annihilator, let's say it's going up against a Sabine, and you got those pesky K2SOs that just keep killing you with those when defeateds, and it pisses you off so much. Annihilator, you put it down, you kill the K2SO, sure, you take 3 damage to the dome, but then you don't have to worry about a single more K2SO, because for some stupid reason, they got 2 more in their hand, they keep playing them, they keep dealing damage to your face, and you can't get rid of them. Well, Annihilator says, boom, they're gone for good. You don't have to worry about the Sons of Guns anymore. So yeah, Annihilator can be really good one-off. It's another ace in the hole. This deck has a lot of ace in the holes. It's like, for certain situations, here's the card, here's the golden ticket that you need. And that's what this deck essentially is. Plus, it's got big boys, and it does a lot of other... This deck does a lot. But then there's Executor, whatever you want to call it. The last space unit, the last card that I'm going to talk about, it's an 11 resource 12/12 with Overwhelm that says when played and on attack, and when defeated, you get to create 3 TIE Fighter tokens, which is powerful because it can create a little bit of a board state. You got a little big guy going about, but it is also pretty powerful in the mirror match, because the thing that you are generally wanting to find in a mirror match when you're playing another Piet deck and you're playing Piet is Avenger, is the Merciless Contest and the Power of the Dark Sides, the things, because a lot of the time, Piet's only going to have 1-2 units on the board. And those units are going to be massive monsters. Well, the Executor says, actually, I got 3 TIE Fighter tokens. And these, I can just use as fodder to sack to the Avengers, to the Merciless Contests, to the Power of the Dark Sides. Sure, if the opponent finds something like the Fell of the Dragon, or the No Glory Only results, then yeah, the Executor just dies. But it can be really helpful to allow you to play against a deck, not just another Piet deck that's playing Avenger, or something that makes you sack your massive monsters. All of a sudden, not that good, because they just get rid of a TIE Fighter. Plus Executor, it's just an 11 resource 12/12. I mean, that is pretty cool too, because it's the biggest unit technically in the game. Like Annihilator, Executor, the 2 biggest units in the game. They're 12/12s. You don't get bigger than them. So, you get to play a big 12/12, you get to play a big body, and you get to dominate the opponent with it. Plus, it makes stuff, so I don't know. With all aside, that's it for this video. Hope that you enjoyed this video. Hope that you all enjoyed Piet, because obviously if you watched all this, you must like Piet. If you don't, then I don't know why. Thank you, but I don't know why you're still watching at this point. But with all that aside, hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It's completely free, you won't regret it. And have a great rest of your day, everybody. Playing Jump to Lightspeed, playing the big boy controller himself, Admiral Piet.